All right, so class 4. Um, let's get to it. So, UVs. That's what this class is about. It's all about laying out the UVs of your character. So at this point, you should have a complete character model, and now what you need to do is be able to apply textures on them, or image files, or basically the idea is that right now it's a gray model, and we can change the color of it, but if I want to add any nuance to it, I need to apply various raster images onto the surface of the model in order to add texture and gradient and uh, various things. Okay, so to make it look like a surface, all right, to divide up the model. Okay, so in order to paint on the model, I need to do that. So because basically the idea is that you take a 2D image and you lay it over a 3D model. So if you were to look at here, what we have is U and V. So V stands for vertical and U is horizontal. I don't know what U stands for, but V is vertical. Okay, so U is the horizontal. And basically the idea is such that when you have this 2D space using these UVs, which are the counterparts to the vertices, it lays the 2D image in this square space over top of the 3D model. Okay, so to look at it, it's much like taking this box, unfolding it, and then so it's basically a flat sheet of paper that you can now draw on, and then laying it back over. And that's more or less what you're doing. You're taking something, you're cutting seams out, so I'd have to cut this box into this shape, and then allowing me to put, because raster images are just 2D images, to lay them over top of a 3D model. Okay, now that's going to involve a whole process. Generally, sometimes people say UV projections or UV layout. I like to use UV layout, but the idea is such that you have a whole model and you cut it into chunks and you lay it out. Make it flat and you work on it. So a really similar thing that you can think of is almost like reverse engineering a shirt, right? So if you look at your shirt, it has a bunch of seams in it. It originally started out as a 2D textile, right? It was a long sheet of cloth that was flat. And then what they do is they roll it around and they sew it to make the sleeves, and they sew the top, the anterior and the posterior panels, so the back and the front together, and then they have holes where the sleeves go in, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's basically what you're doing. You have this shape, and you have to cut seams out and lay it out flat so that you can have a 2D image lay over a 3D model. Okay. Now, so your next assignment is going to basically develop this so that you can then paint on it. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to do it in the most simple kind of way that I can think possible. I got done in 3 videos. That's pretty good. But it's very cumbersome. This is one of the more annoying things that you have to do when you're doing 3D modeling. Usually the 2 things I always think that stick out are UVs and weight painting. Those are the 2 things that students often struggle with, have much disdain for, and are not real happy with. But they're both things that really have to be done. There are a lot of automated solutions, but inevitably you have to do things to some extent manually. And they both are things where you perform them and you don't really see the fruit of your labor until later on. So like I'm going to lay out these UVs, but you don't really see anything. But how well these are laid out is going to determine how well I can paint on them. If there's overlapping or they're misshapen or whatever, when I go to paint on this model, this is going to make it not work. So you're going to, and more than likely that's what's going to happen. You're going to lay these out. You're going to do the best you can, but it's not going to be good. And then you're going to paint on it and be like, oh, I have all these weird things and stuff, and it's because your UVs are poor. And then you'll learn and you'll do a better job next time. But the first time you do it, you're going to do a crap job, because you're not going to appreciate the importance of it. Once you do know how to do it, it's actually pretty straightforward, but it seems sort of complicated in the beginning. So anyway, that's what you're going to do. So you can watch these tutorials. We'll be doing it in class, obviously. And then your assignment is just going to lay out the UV so that the subsequent class you can then go through and paint on them. And for this assignment, the cartoon character one, you are going to actually go into Photoshop and paint it that way. So you actually are going to paint this in a 2D program. Now there are 3D painting programs, but you still have to do this process regardless. But the more well organized you do it, if you're working in 2D, the better it's going to be for you. All right, so that's it.